Yeah, no worries.
Six p.m. We're going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission together on July 26, 2018. Please rise, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always want to say amen.
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 Please call the roll.
Lance Green,
Here.
John Duco,
Here.
Miriam Knowles Annette,
Here.
Bo Volkman,
I'm here.
Mike Arminio,
Here.
Thomas Jordan,
Here.
Newton White.
Here. I would first like to ask everybody if you would please set your personal electronic devices to silent or turn them off in respect for everybody else in the room this evening. And first item on the agenda tonight is the consideration of the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second item on the agenda tonight is case number 18-9000004, a variance at 4068 Carlisle Drive. The applicant has asked that this be continued to a date certain of August 23rd, 2018. So we will move directly to the next item on the agenda, case number 183200000001. Change of use to acknowledge a monopole communication tower has a permitted use in the GPU zoning district. And we will first hear from city staff.
Penelope Cruz, Planning Manager. The applicant, AT&T, has requested to add an additional use to the property located at 651 Taylor Road, currently developed as a house of worship. The applicant is proposing to install a 125-foot tall monopole communication tower along with required site improvements on the west side of the property. The Land Development Code includes monopole communication towers as a permitted use within the Government Public Use Zoning District, which this property is zoned. Although the tower is a permitted use, the code requires that all proposed changes of use within the GPU zoning district be presented to the Planning Commission and City Council. I do want to note that the site plan application has not been submitted at this time for staff to review for compliance with the Land Development Code. The Land Development Code requirements were listed in the staff report. Staff is here to answer any questions you have. The applicant's representative is here to answer any questions you have. And I believe there are representatives from the group from the public that would also like to speak and give a presentation.
All right, thank you, Penny. Would the applicant like to make a presentation about the cell phone tower?
Good evening, Mary Jody Solik, 121 South Orange Avenue, Suite 1500, Orlando, Florida. I am legal counsel for AT&T Wireless. As Ms. Cruz has indicated to you, the tower is a permitted use in the zoning category. We must submit for a site development plan to get this tower permitted, and we intend to comply with the Land Development Code when we do that application. Thank you.
Thank you. This evening, our Deputy City Attorney, Matt Jones, would like to has a prepared statement for the audience this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As indicated by Ms. Cruz and in your staff report, the applicant has proposed to add a use that is a permitted use in the Governmental Public Use Zoning District, the GPU district. This property is zoned GPU and has been since 1994. A communication tower has been a permitted use in the GPU zoning district since 1997. The Land Development Code requires advertisement and public hearing for all proposed uses in GPU. However, because the proposed use is a permitted use, there is no approval or recommendation needed from the Planning Commission tonight. Those from the public who wish to speak about this change of use will have that opportunity, but no formal action is required of this board.
I will open it up to public comments. We have two individuals, Eugene Healy and Paul Kern, that have asked to give longer presentations, which we will limit to 10 minutes. And they are doing so in favor of several other residents that yielded their time to them this evening. And this is something that we have done before and will continue to do. Other than that, after that, individuals will be allowed 3 minutes, as the timer in front of us will show you, and you'll be asked to stop if you go over the 3 minutes. So when you come to the podium, please give us your name and your address for the record. Thank you. And you are?
Good evening. My name is Eugene Healy. I reside at 989 Smoke Rise Boulevard in Port Orange, Florida. I'd like to sit here and take a minute to express some concerns that the citizens of Port Orange have with the proposed change of use land application as presented by AT&T. In my hands is a 98-page memorandum in opposition put together by the citizens of Port Orange that this proposed use change impacts. I will present the salient points of this for consideration. Although this board is only in an acknowledgement mode this evening and no decision will be made, I will explain the direction that we are seeking and what we plan to ask for. So let me pull up my charts and we'll step through it and get going. So again, this is a summary of a memorandum in opposition to AT&T's application for a change of use to permit a monopole communications tower at 651 Taylor Road. The citizens represented are noted on this chart here. There are 23 residences on this chart. However, I would really like to urge the Planning Commission to look throughout this room because there are a lot more residents represented in this room that share a common opposition as what we're illustrating today. And so I really want to make sure that it's crystal clear that even though there are only certain names and addresses on this chart, many more citizens, your constituents, express the same concerns and are here to support in opposition of this application. So let's talk about that on the next chart about why. So I'm going to go through the purpose of what we want to ask for, a reminder of the purpose and intent of the LDC, the issue at hand, how it violates the Land Development Code, specifically Chapter 16, Section 9, Delta 3, even though that's not the point of today's acknowledgement by the Commission. It is germane to this conversation, and we do think it adds context and illustrates the concern, and it should be for consideration. We're going to talk about the unnecessary impacts inflicted upon the residences in near proximity to the proposed location, as well as the public danger by failing to provide a meaningful fall zone or safe zone by AT&T's application, and a conclusion. So the purpose here is to obtain Port Orange's written denial of AT&T's change of use application at 651 Taylor Road. On this chart, you'll notice it is a map of a residential neighborhood taken from Google. In the center of this map, you'll see the proposed location as presented by AT&T at 651 Taylor Road. Note that there is only a school and a daycare in close proximity. The rest are homes. There are no commercial buildings. There are no buildings higher than 2 stories. There are no structures. It is completely out of character and out of taste for this residence, and it will cause impacts. So we wanted to make sure everyone understands what we're dealing with. So I wanted to take a second to frame up and say something about the purpose and intent of the Land Development Code. I shouldn't have to. I think you guys are all intimately familiar with it. However, it is very germane to this conversation, so I wanted to provide some context so everybody understands what we're talking about. And so I've got a few excerpts here that I've cut and pasted, and there's 3 in particular relative to Chapter 16, Section 9, personal communication devices for wireless towers. So the first 3 I'll mention that are of the utmost importance are: this is the intent to protect abutting properties and residences in areas from potential adverse impacts associated with cell sites as permitted herein. That's the neighbors. The previous chart that you just saw with all those homes, every home is intently supposed to be protected by this particular LDC code. So think about that. It's also to allow the city to avoid or minimize proliferation of single-use communication towers and encouraging co-location of antennas on existing communication towers and encouraging antennas on alternative support structures where possible. And the other one I want to point out is to minimize adverse visual impacts associated with cell sites as permitted by encouraging innovative design styles in the construction of those communication towers. But the bottom line here, guys, is the LDC, its purpose and intent was to protect the citizens and enable the city to make smart, informed decisions, right? I think we can all acknowledge that. So now that we've got that, let's talk about the issue. So the issue with AT&T Mobility's file to install a 130-foot cell tower in close proximity to over 114 homes in a residential zone district, despite what the church's GPU zoning district is, you need to acknowledge that it is adjacent to homes and it is adjacent to residential districts. The application should be denied because the tower is wholly unnecessary for the AT&T Wireless to provide personal wireless services within the city. The granting of this application will violate the LDC of the City of Port Orange, and the installation of the tower in the heart of the residential neighborhood would inflict upon the surrounding homes and community the precise adverse impacts in which the relevant provisions that I just read to you guys on the previous chart of the LDC were specifically enacted to prevent, right? That's what we're talking about here, is using your own codes and ordinances granted upon you to make a smart decision. So let's talk about some of the violations of the LDC, Chapter 16 specifically. As required, there's two parts. You got to meet both of them, Part A and B. You don't get a choice. Part A says that you've got to establish a need. AT&T has failed to establish that need. The citizens in this community have over 561 data points of calls, text messages, and emails with 100% reliability at varying times of the day, varying days of the week, varying locations throughout the purported zone of no coverage. And what we've shown is we have 100% reliability. So thank you, AT&T. It's great that we have a good wireless network. We appreciate that reliability. The other thing that we found very interesting is on AT&T's own website, they purport to have 100% reliability in this area, not only for voice, but 3G, 4G, 4G LTE coverage. So what we did is basically validate that assertion that they have on their website, and we've shown with real data, not with emotions, not with arguments, but with real solid data, guys, there is no gap in coverage. So what's a gap in coverage, you ask? A gap in coverage is when I take my cell phone, I'm on that cell phone, I move through the zone of coverage, and my call drops. If that call drops, that's an existing gap in coverage. AT&T has failed to prove that there's a gap in coverage. So based off that alone, they don't meet requirement A of the LDC. Let's talk about requirement B. In addition, they have to meet this as well. It's not a choice. They need to meet A and B. The tower shall not be approved unless the applicant demonstrates the need cannot be met by co-locating on an existing tower. AT&T has failed to meet this requirement of the LDC as well. So 2 points they failed upon. Let's move on and talk about the impacts inflicted upon the residents just adjacent to that. So the dramatic and wholly unnecessary adverse impacts and the aesthetics and the character that this tower is going to bring to our sightline of our homes, through our kitchens, through our bedrooms, through our pool screen rooms, through the homes that we enjoy and love, this will dominate the skyline. The owners of these homes have documented and characterized these adverse impacts in letters, and that's included in this 98-page document that we've submitted to the city. So you can just understand the exact specific impacts that they're experiencing and how that is supposed to be in compliance with the LDC, because the LDC is supposed to prevent that from happening to the abutting properties. So again, AT&T has failed to demonstrate that they actually have a need for this tower required by the LDC. So you can wholly avoid these impacts in their entirety. Let's talk about the next impact that's going to be realized. So the substantial and wholly unnecessary loss in the values of the adjacent and nearby properties. Typically, next to cell sites, you'll experience a 5 to 20% reduction in property values. That's typically, right? This is very important because this is our property. These are our equities. These are our lives that we've invested in these homes that will be impacted. So the citizens have once again rallied to provide evidence. They've obtained letters, written letters from licensed real estate professionals in your local area with over 20 years experience. And every single one of them came back with data that said absolutely. And sometimes in a range of 5 to 20%, and sometimes the home is rendered unsaleable. You can't sell it, guys. So the impacts are real, and we will be burdening these impacts, not AT&T. We will, the citizens. Please consider that. The LDC's intent is to protect the residents from this exact circumstance. I think we need to acknowledge that. So let's talk about another point here while I'm running low on time. It's failing to provide a meaningful fall zone and safe zone. So the proposed installation would create a public danger that would fail to provide a meaningful fall zone or safe zone, as AT&T's proposed 13-story tower placed would not afford sufficient fall zone or safety zone to protect those who would commonly travel either A, on Taylor Road or upon the pedestrian sidewalk that is heavily trafficked by elementary school children going to Spruce Creek Elementary and or Spruce Creek High School students and or even the church resident, the church parishioners that go to the church. So consider that. They don't mean it. So as proposed by AT&T, the tower would irresponsibly be placed so close that the address 991 Smoke Rise would be well within the fall zone, meaning the tower could fall at the base for many failure reasons. It would hit the house. Not that it would fall on their property, it would impact their home. That's way too close. Find another place in Port Orange where that already exists. You probably won't, and probably with good reason. So it's increased liability, it's an increased risk posture that the city needs to acknowledge that by approving this application, it's an increased liability upon the city where they're saying, hey, it's okay if I have a fall zone or a safe zone that's not meaningful to protect my citizens. That's not okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, enough. Mr. Kern?
Thank you,
Yes.
guys.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I'm Paul Kern from 997 Smoke Rise Boulevard. Want to talk about why a cell tower at 651 Taylor Road is a terrible and dangerous idea. I'm not going to rehash a lot of what Tripp said, but I will start with this. Port Orange's Land Development Code specifically says a proposed communication tower shall not be approved unless the applicant demonstrates that there is a need for the communication tower. Tripp alluded to this. This is what real need looks like in real life. These are all developments west of the 95. In the last few months, I've been having trouble with drop calls, poor reception. I have to go right up to my window or go outside. I have spotty service here. It's not consistent. I have to go outside to talk. I have horrible signal strength. That's what legitimate need looks like. Next to drop calls, this is about as representative as need as you can get. AT&T, and again, Tripp covered this, talks about their coverage on, this is directly from their website. The voice coverage, 100%. 3G, 100%. 4G, 100%. 4G LTE, 100%. This is from their change of use application. Not only does the coverage 100%, they even give you the existing transmitter name that's covering our area. Over the last 5 weeks, as Tripp said, we conducted 561 calls, text, emails from indoors, outdoors, all within the area they said this tower would cover. 100% completion. Their own applicant statement says that they want the monopole communications tower for additional coverage or a desired capacity need. And they're talking about constructing a 3-deck tower, and we wonder why. And the reason is, it's about money. They build a 3-deck tower, they can lease out the other space to the co-competitors for between $2,500 and $3,500 per month indefinitely. And that's what we're talking about here. But it's the Port Orange homeowners who are really going to pay. Tripp said 114 homeowners within 1,000 feet of 651 Taylor Road. This is a list of them. I'm not going to go through every page. I'll just go right to the summary. The total loss liability using the County of Volusia property appraiser values is $5.9 million. Using Zillow, which is probably a much more realistic estimate, near over $7.5 million in lost property values. And according to the realtors, we may not even be able to sell our house if we put this tower in our backyard. AT&T was supposed to provide you with pictures about the aesthetic impact. They were supposed to do it from the point of view of the homeowners. Not one of their pictures in their packet, which is Exhibit C, met that requirement. Additionally, they've requested approval for a 3-deck tower. Their pictures only showed a 1-deck tower. And also, they show a tower only 125 feet. We know from their application it will be at least 129 feet because the transmitters will go so that they're half above and half below the top of the monopole, and the transmitters are 8 feet tall. And there's also an act that will allow them, without talking to any one of you, to raise that another 20 feet. They don't need city or government approval to do it. In OmniPoint Communications versus City of White Plains, the federal government said if you're a provider and you're providing false pictures about what the homeowner's impact is, that all those pictures, which is Exhibit C that they submitted, are inherently defective and should be properly disregarded. And I'm asking you to consider that when you review their packet. This is the lake immediately north of 651 Taylor Road. It's beautiful. The trees to the left are the trees that border the church property. This is what we can expect if this is approved. Huge tower. This is get a little personal. This is from my living room window. That's the bottom of the 3 decks. From my bedroom window, the bottom of the 3 decks. This is a picture submitted by John Watts, who lives on Morey Court. This is the view out his front driveway. The damage to the visual beauty of this pristine area is severe, cannot be overstated, and it's permanent. When you do things like this, when you allow industrial objects in a residential community, you kill the neighborhood. This is how neighborhoods die. The tower wouldn't only bring visual pollution. You're talking about a 50 kilowatt diesel generator 25 feet from residential zoning. That's Countryside in yellow. How loud is a 50 kilowatt diesel generator? If you go to the Generac site, the diesel manufacturer, or the generator manufacturer, they say the sound output at 23 feet is between 65 and 70 decibels, but sound levels taken from the other side of the generator may be higher, depending on the installation parameters. Port Orange says, in a residential area, between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., we should have a sound level limit of 60 decibels, 50 overnight. It also says that sound or noise projecting from one use district into another use district has to meet the requirements of the district in which it's going into, which is the residential area. So you're talking about a diesel generator operating at 65 to 70 decibels or more in an area that requires 50 to 60 decibels. Furthermore, this is really bad news. A cell tower generator is self-testing. You can go on or off anytime, day or night, unspecified periods of time. Even if half the decibel levels, how are you going to sleep through this? There's no sound barrier. North of the church is an open field and a lake. There's nothing to buffer that sound. Fact is also that cell towers collapse. One fell in Homestead, one fell in St. Pete, one fell in April, killing a person, injuring several others. Because they're built to be cheap and economical. They're not built for strength. The design criteria of this one has a 139 mile per hour ultimate 3-second gust standard and 108 at nominal 3-second gust. Irma had sustained wind speeds of 185 and 220 miles from the center of Irma, 142 mile per hour winds. And the year before Irma, we had Matthew, and Matthew had sustained winds of 165. At this point, probably people are saying, but it's going to meet code. Maybe it'll meet code. We shouldn't care about it. But you have to mix code with common sense. Volusia County does that. Their common sense code states that cell towers should be at least 1,000-foot setback, except in special cases where that requirement can be waived, but in no case shall said separation distance be less than 500 feet from single-family dwellings. If this thing came down at 651 Taylor Road, we would literally be within the fall zone. And what about those high winds? From 125 feet, a worker drops a wrench, a nut or a bolt comes off in a high windstorm. Those things are traveling over 60 miles per hour by the time they hit the ground. You're essentially firing a bullet into people's houses at that point in a windstorm. Also, you can do this for yourself. I'll try to be quick about it. Go to YouTube, search cell tower fire. You're going to get about 150,000 results. Cell tower burns to the ground. Tower fire in Lilburn. Cell phone tower fire. Major fire. And now let's talk about the height of the tower. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. They portray it as 125 feet, but if you look with that little crooked line at the top, the monopole ends. The transmitter goes 4 feet above that. And according to the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012, they can raise that tower 20 feet without even talking to any of you. They can do it at their own whim. So you're talking about nearly 150-foot tall tower. Chip talked about private property. This is the orange is all countryside. The yellow is private property. We're all in a fall zone if this thing goes up. So is Taylor Road. At 110 feet, this thing hits the sidewalk. 125 feet, this thing is in Taylor Road. 149 feet, you're blocking the westbound lanes of Taylor Road. Not only that, but because of the pendulum effect of the tower, you have about a 200-foot stretch of sidewalk in front of Countryside and the church, which would be within the fall zone of this tower. More important than money is health. We know that. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 prohibits me from talking about RF radiation, and we all know nothing's changed since 1996. I can say, once approved, the RF radiation from a cell tower is often not monitored at all. And when it is, it's often monitored at levels hundreds to thousands of times above what the FCC requires. And there's a fact that children are more susceptible to radiation than adults. I'll just leave that fact on the table. This is a personal anecdote. At my July 4th party, I said to my friends, are we going to do this again next year? One of my friends said, hey, I love barbecued food, but not microwave friends. If you host a Facebook page and you say the sky is blue, darn it, you'll have 10 people come in there and tell you it's green and you're crazy. Same thing with our Facebook page. People said it's progress, except that it isn't. They say their coverage is 100%. There is no such thing as 101% coverage. It's got to go somewhere. If there were a need for it, yeah, it sure would, but there isn't any need for it. And as we know, no need equals no tower. And the so what of this is that all of the aesthetics of our neighborhood are going to be destroyed. And that destruction is permanent. We can't get that back. It's going to cost us way too much. Again, quick review because I have 16 seconds. AT&T has full coverage. The downside and dangers to residents. Property values are going to be crushed. Visual impact will destroy our neighborhood. Noise pollution. Not even to talk about the light on top of the tower if they put that up. Wind and fire cause fall hazards. Fall hazards create liability for you all. And once built, the cell towers are rarely checked. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any individuals that would like to speak? Come forward, please.
Hey, Newton, make sure it's not a repetitive. People aren't using repetitive.
All right, before,
John Watts, 980.
one moment before we start. I would like to hear everybody that likes to speak, would like to speak tonight, but in consideration for everybody's time, repeating the same thing time and time again doesn't make it any more heard by us. So please, if somebody's already said what you were going to say, come say your name and let that be. Thank you. Go ahead.
John Watts, 989 Morey Court, Port Orange. I've been in Steeplechase or Countryside for 22 years, and I'm going to be about 400 feet from this cell tower, looking right at it as I come out of my driveway or sitting on the front porch. But also, for the last 15 years, I've been the chairman of the Architectural Review Board in Countryside. And you say that by choice, not chance, is how Port Orange designed. This is pretty much the same way Countryside's designed. When your builder came in, he was told so many square feet, building materials, height of a building, no more than 2-story, and all the Countryside is there, still there, 30 years, and it's still growing, and it's beautiful yet, pristine. We don't want to look out and see an monster staring at us as we leave our homes. I know people don't like this, the ones that we've had issues with in our community. Some of them have moved, some of them been in court. I don't think too many cases we've lost. I don't think we lost of any. Some of them have gone to jail. But we've maintained the standards that we moved there, and we wanted our homes to look like, and we wanted our properties to take and look like, and we want our property values to stay up. By you not even looking or considering some way that we can deny, modify this, make a 10-foot tower, 15-foot tower, we don't care. But some way you got to help us. I mean, we spent a lot of time, many an hours, to keep our community the way it is. And now to have something to come in like this and look at our community, it's unconscionable. It's almost criminal to allow that to happen in a community like Countryside. I don't even want to take any more of your time because you probably heard everything and don't want to hear any more, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Please. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board.
Your name, please, sir.
Howard Tipton, and I live at 997 Morey Court, Port Orange. As you know, Countryside is a planned community in Port Orange with underground utilities by choice. Both the city and both by the city and by the residents, the FP&L lines have been put underground. We love our protected views of clear sky, tree, and lakes. We did not locate in Countryside to improve our TV or phone reception. AT&T currently serves our area with underground service, and we would prefer that that service continue instead of placing a monster utility tower on adjacent property. Port Orange has had high development standards for the past 30-some years. The city has limited signage, required landscaping, and underground utilities, and become a tree city. We ask that you maintain these high standards. If this tower is forced upon us by the city, where are the proposed zoning requirements to protect the views of our homes? How about a requirement that limits the height of these towers to 50 feet? That way we would be protected from most of the sky pollution that we face. We ask for outright denial of this AT&T request. AT&T can serve our area by underground cable as FP&L and AT&T currently do. There is no need for this tower. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please hold the applause. We try not to applaud or boo anybody for anything in this chamber. Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Dave Brown. I live at 711 Pine Forest Trail East, and I'm 6 homes from the church. And I just want to go on record that I'm opposed to this cell tower. My wife and I are looking at retiring here fairly soon. She can't make the meeting because she has to commute to Orlando for a job daily. So this is definitely going to curtail, our retirement, because we will not be able to sell our home for what it's worth, and we're going to have to continue working beyond what our original plans are. So I'd like to see you make an informed decision, which I think you got plenty of information, and I want to be on record that I'm opposed to this cell tower. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any more public comments? There being no more public comments, would like to start with you, Lance?
Sure. Penelope, can you come up, and I just need to ask a couple questions. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that I don't like it. It's not the right spot. My question is, the church is on this property.
The church is the property owner, and they signed the application authorizing the submittal of the application.
But there's a church on the property.
There is a church on the property.
How can you have a church on a property, a zone for a church, and now we're going to change the zoning to put something else on the property?
The zoning is not changing. The zoning is GPU. It has a list of permitted uses. A monopole communication tower is one of the permitted uses. You can have more than one use on a property.
Okay, so we have a church, and they can still have this tower, even though it's on a church property.
If it meets, they have to submit a site plan, and they have to go through all the criteria in the land development code, and staff, as well as we, in cases like this with a cell tower, we have a consultant RF engineer that will also review the material submitted to make sure that it's complying with our land development code as well as federal standards.
Okay. I just want to go on record that I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't think that the area is matured for that to be there, and I agree with most here that it's not the place. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan?
My turn? Thank you. Yeah, well, obviously we have no ability to make any kind of decision here tonight. It's not a vote or anything. Again, like, as Lance said on record, I agree 100%. It's not the proper location for it. As far as the documentation you provided and the information we got in our packet, it was very impressive. What I would suggest is continuing to push on the facts as you see it. and stay on top of making sure that all of the requirements are met. That's all I have.
Mr. Arminio?
Yeah, I'm with you, both of you guys. I think it's a horrible location for that tower, you know, especially with all the things you guys brought forward and what we have in our packet. Matt, some of the things they brought up in the legal realm, do they have any standing on those issues? Or are you gonna look it up, or can we look at some of the things that they brought forward?
So that's something definitely staff's going to be taken into consideration. They've submitted the memorandum in opposition. So we will be looking at some of the issues that have been brought up and consider those during the staff review of the site plan once that site plan's been submitted.
So it's possible some of the things they brought up are relevant?
Absolutely possible.
Okay.
And likely.
And I just want to know, is anybody from AT&T, have you guys been in discussion with AT&T or the residents with anybody from AT&T?
No.
I mean, that would be a good start.
The church has been told.
Okay. You have to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You have to be at the podium.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Bo?
I'm opposed to it as well. And I have questions about some of the issues that have been raised about health hazards and the danger to the public. Obviously, if that tower at that height exceeds the normal or safe fall zone, this is something that I would be very concerned with. But I'm on record as well as being opposed to the installation. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bennett?
Yeah, it actually breaks my heart that we're not voting on this tonight, because I think you guys all can see now who would walk out of the room a winner. I don't agree with it being there. I'll go on record to say that as well. I think it's a horrible location. Besides the neighborhood, the schools, the daycares, everything around there, I'm actually shocked that the church is agreeing to this. But I agree with the guys that you need to push on the church. They're really the people who can make the change for you, and I'd be in communication with AT&T as well and see what you can do. And I'm sorry that we are not voting.
Mr. Junko?
Yes. I think this is my third or fourth term doing this, and I was the most impressed by your presentation and your ability to converge together as a group, unified, civil, and come up with very hard facts to make a very strong presentation. You've obviously made an impression on all of us up here. With that being said, I did make a couple of notes regarding your presentation. I am disappointed that I do not see a representative from the church here. And I don't like the idea that the church did not come up here and make a presentation, because from what I understand, it's their property and they're most likely subleasing it to AT&T. Now, I belong to Our Lady of Hope. I jog past that church, and I just thought that a pastor or priest would not want to rock the boat or his flock. And with the obvious stirring up of what has happened within the community, I would strongly urge the pastor or the priest to reconsider this application, because it's defeating the purpose of the harmony that he wants to bring to his parish. That does disturb me that he wasn't here to represent himself, and he had to have a representative from AT&T to be here to strictly represent their behalf. So that didn't fall very good on me. The other points that you had made that I would like you to advise to hit hard are to find out about the rules and the regulations that you have stated here. Then our legal staff will be looking into regarding fall zones, definition of AT&T gap zone, where the nearest tower is, definition of why they need projected tower if it's providing 100% coverage right now. These all have to be taken into consideration, and be patient and work it through, and definitely keep communications amongst each others, as well as trying to reach out to the church.
And us.
Yeah.
The city attorney.
And that's and my mood is
the same as everyone up here. And I also live on Devon Street, so I jog past there. My kids went to your school there, so my kids went to La Petite, so yeah, it affects me too. Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody that came out tonight for or against this tower. I want to thank everybody that spoke, Mr. Healy, Mr. Kern, Mr. Tipton, the names that I remember. It takes a lot for people to get up in front of a crowd and speak, and I appreciate that you've done that and that you've all come out this evening. I too personally feel that it is the wrong place for perhaps the right thing. With the proliferation of more personal electronic devices, there will be more need for service. I know that it would improve the reliability of service in a large residential area, and including the schools where many children rely on cell phones as well to communicate with their parents. But as my mom always said, there is more than one way to skin a cat, and I would hope that we can find a better way than a large ugly tower to provide cell phone service to our residents in the city. And again, thank you very much. And we have no motion to make and no vote to take on this. We have no standing to take any action one way or the other or any direction on this evening. So this item is closed, and we're going to be in recess for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Well, we had the same.
Yeah,
I'm proud of us today.
Me too.
I think we did good.
I think
I think we served the public today.
I do too.
Not that we did in the past.
Hey, young man.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, you stuck around though.
I think these people.
Yeah.
call this meeting back to order. Case number 18600000003, rezoning of 6225 South Williamson Boulevard, a request to rezone 5.8 plus minus acres located at the northeast corner of South Williamson Boulevard and Oakwater Lane from planned commercial development to community commercial. Ms. King?
Brianna Conlon King, planner. The proposed rezoning is to rezone approximately 5.5 acres from PCD to community commercial. The site is located at the northeast corner of South Williamson Boulevard and Oakwater Lane. The subject property has had commercial zoning since 1991. The request made by the applicant is because the property is currently zoned PCD but does not have a master development agreement and conceptual development plan. In 2007, a commercial development was approved as part of an MDA and expired in 2013. The property owner intends to develop the subject site with childcare facility, offices, retail space, and comply with the requirements in the LDC. The rezoning request was reviewed according to the criteria established in the LDC in terms of consistency with the comprehensive plan with regard to the future land use map and the location of commercial nodes within the city. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning request and is here to answer any questions you may have, as well with the applicant is also here with questions as well.
Okay. John, any questions for staff?
Not at this point, no.
Maria?
Not yet.
Bo?
No.
Mike?
No, I'm good.
Tom?
So let me ask, so this had a PCD,
Yes.
had an MDA,
Yes.
the MDA expired.
Correct. In
So now it's just
2013.
kind of sitting there in la la land.
Yes.
So now they're coming back and saying, okay, we want to do community commercial,
Mhm.
and we're going to go straight zoning. We're not going to ask for anything special. We're not going to create an MDA. All that
Correct.
goes away.
Correct.
So we're just going straight community commercial.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Lance?
Nothing yet.
Right. So, on what Mr. Jordan asked, by going with the straight LDC,
Mhm.
Land Development Code, they will not be able to ask for shorter buffer zones to the residences. They'll have to build it to what the code already specifies.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. No questions for you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation this evening?
No presentation.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
Come up to the podium.
Come, please step forward.
Arlene Fiore, 704 Saw Palmetto Court, Ashton Lakes, resident. This area that's in question is at the entrance to our community. And our concern and why we're here tonight is because we don't know of any site plan yet, and I know that it's steps, we have to go step by step. We're not object to it being commercial. We've known all along that it's gonna be the least offensive type zoning, of course, is what we would prefer. But what we would like going forward is that the developers make some kind of contact or workshop with representatives from our community so that we can see. One of the things that we heard, of course, we don't know for sure, is that there will be access from Oakwater Lane, which we feel is detrimental, offensive, and dangerous to our community. Dangerous to the people that are making access there. So, and there's no site plan yet, so there's nothing for us to be for or against. But we want to make sure going forward that we're not left out of the decision of how the site plan is going to be. It affects us, and we don't want to be chasing after it. The presentation before was wonderful, it was good, they were prepared, but they had information to work with. And we have nothing right now. So all we're asking you is that you be sure that the developer works with us on-site plan that they're gonna present to you, so that by the time it comes to you, everybody's in agreement.
Thank you, Arlene. Don't forget the time.
Hi, my name is Shanna Deo. I am a resident in the community, 732 Oakwater Lane. I am actually just, we don't know exactly what's forthcoming, but I wanted to mention it to you and mention it to the proposed developers. As a mom of a single mom of a very small child, there's a lot of traffic on Oakwater Lane anyway, a lot of traffic. And with the school right there as well, in the morning it's super, super congested. We have lots of children walking to school. Right now, if you're coming south on Williamson, there is no turn signal to go into our neighborhood. So if you add additional, offices or whatever's going to be happening and lots more traffic there in the morning, it's going to be even more congested. And so whatever plans are coming forward, I think you need to keep in mind that this is a very busy school zone in the morning. And so I just would ask that as you're thinking about what's going to happen there, not only does it affect our residences, but these very small children that are trying to walk to school, bike to school, scoot to school, all this stuff that they're doing, and it is extra. If you haven't been out there at about 7:50 in the morning, you should try it, because it takes about 20 minutes to make a 1 mile loop. So I would just ask that you guys think about that, because a turn signal is needed now, but if we allow access from the Oakwater Lane, it would definitely be needed for safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Who said that? My name is Robert Myers. I'm at 793 Crosswind Way in Ashton Lakes. I'm an original homeowner down there. I built there, closed on my home there in September 30th of 2002. And some of the residents that are here tonight have also been through the Williamson extension that we did. And when the Williamson extension went in, which it's a great thing, I'm not saying anything about it, I'm just saying, I'm trying to give you information on when it went through, our neighborhood was a total turnaround. And I could tell you that because I've been on the HOA there before, and when it was a total turnaround, they were destroying they would come in, what they did, they didn't want to wait for the light. So on Williamson, they would make a turn on red, a right turn on red, come in, go around our island, then come back out the other side, then make another turn on red, and then go on up Williamson. Now we're going to add this extension into Oakwater Lane, which has been our sidewalks, which has been our grass, which has been our trees that we have trimmed every year, and our sprinkler system that runs underground there that we just had a lot of repairs put on. These guys are going to cross over all of this. And on top of that, there's sidewalks that, we use to walk the dogs and everything on. These guys are going to cut through here. And from what I understand, that I don't really understand all the legalities here. I'm obviously not an attorney, but Jim Pata signed a licensing agreement back in October of 24th of 2000 to allow, if I'm getting this right, to give the right-of-way onto Oakwater Lane on the property that he owns south still that he's trying to sell, and then this property here. And I don't understand all this amendment stuff, but I just wonder, is that agreement that he signed with the city, is that, this land development expired and they have to go back through this and change all this? Is it a possibility that his license agreement that he did with the city back in 2000, he's not even a property owner over there, is that once it's signed, it's good for the rest of eternity to give that right away onto Oakwater? Because, I can't believe they're going to cut right through there, right into our neighborhood. I realize they need the access, but it's going to totally change our neighborhood. I mean, they think they got problems in Countryside. I felt sorry for those people. We're going to have it there too, and it's going to impact our properties greatly there, because we're going to become this turnaround system. And I know what people do. They're going to come in from one side and then go through the back side and go into this daycare. It may be very well needed down there, but this is a residential area down there. Now it's turning into a lot of commercial stuff because now we got a storage facility going across the street. Now we got this daycare. I mean,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this? I'd like to start, I'd like to ask staff to tell us a couple of things. Maybe you might have to put Mr. Berman on the spot as well. Could you please tell us the process that will go from here? This is just a zoning change, which I understand, but then they have to submit the site plan, and then that gets reviewed, and then there'll be signs posted. Just please explain.
From here, the applicant would be required to submit a site plan for review. From there, it would go through the site plan process, which is reviewed by staff, and from there, they would be required to follow all the regulations in the land development code. And from there, they would be issued a development order, and then they would go through the pre-construction process and the construction process from there.
So it's what I'm trying to illustrate is it's a lengthy process. There will be times to review and times for comment. And people will be contacted. The other thing, if Tim can help, maybe the traffic pattern through there. Could somebody please explain so everybody would know what rigorous review that gets before they wind up being able to build anything or put another access onto the road, and explain that process.
Well, Williamson Boulevard is county maintained thoroughfare, so Volusia County issues right-of-way permits for any access off of Williamson. At this time, based on conceptual plans, Volusia County is not entertaining any access points off of Williamson, and for any access off of Oakwater, any turning movement off of Oakwater Lane, that will be addressed at site plan, at the site plan process, and in between the trees and the light poles, all of that will be a part of the site improvement process. It's also addressed during the site plan review, and the lights will be adjusted accordingly as well, and they will be relocated, and that will be addressed as well with the applicant during the site plan review process. There also I think Mr. Myers addressed the license agreement that is still in effect. Yes.
So what you're saying, the county is not going to allow them access off Williamson?
At this point, they're
At this
not.
point.
They've said that they're not entertaining one.
Right.
There's no application made,
But there's no
Right.
application made because no formal site plan has been submitted.
And this is one of the reasons why I was against a project across the street and voted against that, because we didn't have it. We had nothing to look at to see where the access points were going to be.
So right now, they are going to be sharing an access point through the 7-Eleven or the gas station.
So that's going to be an adjoining
There is a
property?
cross-access easement that they have currently on the books, yes.
So that's directly
they're-
across from the sanctuary, which is a nightmare to get out of right now.
Correct.
All right.
Well, it's not necessarily a nightmare,
Yeah,
but.
it is.
It's a nightmare.
It's
It's
rough.
a
Yes,
nightmare.
it is.
It's rough if you want to go left.
Yeah.
Tim Berman, Community Development. This is just a rezoning. This is standard rezoning practice. It could be 5 years, 5 months before we get a site plan in on this project. When the site plan is submitted, the codes and time that will apply, they'll be required to do a traffic study based on what they're providing there. We will look at everything that everyone mentioned here, also coordinate with the county in terms of their road, on their requirements. Our initial discussion with the county on this indicated there will be the shared access point at the gas station and the access point at Oakwater Lane. Once we get more details of the site plan is when we'll make those comments and make those reports then as to what improvements are needed to that intersection then.
Depending upon what's going to go there.
Right. But like I said, basically it's community commercial, so there's a number of uses that can go in there. Different uses generate different types of development, and we'll base our requirements there based on the uses that are provided.
I just like the fact that it's coming off of Oakwater Lane. I mean, and Williamson is a nightmare anyway right there, so if you're turning left, but I get it. But I don't like that. I just like going into a subdivision. That's just my opinion.
Tom?
Oh, we're going through?
Yeah, fine.
I'm good.
Just a strong suggestion to the developer. There's some folks here that would really like to talk to you, it sounds like. Maybe you could make some introductions tonight, meet each other and see what's gonna happen. But as we were saying, this is just a zoning change, and so we don't get the opportunity a lot of times, well, most times, to even look at what a development will look like, what's in there, what businesses will be located there. So we're in the same spot you are a lot of times, but we're just looking at the zoning. Question I have, you mentioned something about timing of lights. You did mention something, timing about lights, right after you said there's no access being entertained.
No,
in
I said
Williamson.
that at the time that the site plan comes in, that the movement coming off of Oakwater Lane, that would be addressed going forward at the site plan.
And that would be done by
Going-
the county?
Yes, that's also something that would be addressed at that time.
Do
when
they
that
use the
comes
same
in.
people as the state does on Dunlot? And, you know?
Let's
You can call and ask.
Normally Tim's up here and he takes us.
You can call and ask.
Thank you. Thank you, that's all I have.
Lance?
So the CC designation, in my view, is probably the most stringent code that's going to be out there when you're going to straight zoning. The parameters of this and then the parameters of the straight zoning is probably going to be the hardest or the most stringent to develop in this area versus if it was just a PCD. And I'm looking for the most stringent code. So the most stringent code on this is going to be a CC, and then when the site plan comes in is when we take a look at the use of the property. So I'm all for the most stringent code on this, and if it's the CC and it's under straight zoning and that's what we develop it under, then I'm all for it.
Bo?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there'd be room for a cell tower there.
You stole my joke. I was holding on to that joke.
No. No.
Or Brianna.
I don't see it as.
It is.
Oh, it is. It is. a
So
permitted
that
use.
was going to be my comment to my fellow commissioners, that there is a proposed use for a cell tower on this property. I'm not sure.
That's a special
I
exception.
hate
There's one
to
about 1,000 feet
abuse.
down the street.
I hate to abuse Brianna, but I wouldn't mind abusing Tim. If you can tell us if there's any way we could get that off.
Well, if it's a special
Wait,
exception,
that's-
it's
that's
come from
totally
us.
different.
Yeah, it's totally, yeah.
It's a special.
It's a
That's
special
totally
exception use, and also there's an existing one in Cypress Head by the golf course area, so it's very close proximity to that one existing tower already there.
So
then.
it probably wouldn't.
So in terms of the special exception,
But it's
see a
under
need.
permitted uses, not special exception.
right? But
gonna have a
also,
need.
when if one would come in, we have to look at the co-location criteria, and like I said, there's one probably about 1,200 feet away from that in the Cypress Head area.
I just
So-
don't want to find ourselves back here in a year where we were a little earlier. That's my only beef. So the other question I had, I definitely encourage the developers to hold a little meeting with the neighborhood, because I think in the past, things that have come before us for planning commission, when the developers meet with the neighborhoods that are surrounding what they're doing, it makes all the difference in the world. You need to definitely keep those lines of communication open, like Tom said.
Helps make it much more flexible in terms of variance requests. and
Yes,
Things like
much
that.
more palatable. So I was going to mention the school, because I live around the corner. It's a madhouse. And I just wanted to make sure about the entry points, but you clarified that. So I'm good otherwise.
Yeah, besides you stealing my joke, you know, this is a very lengthy process, and there's a lot of dominoes that have to fall down. We're up to the first domino. So really, when you're going for a CC or the community commercial, there's a lot of options here. And as it's already been noted, the developer and the engineers are now on notice that they want to work in harmony with the surrounding area. And we had our meeting last month, and we had something we had to vote on, and there was a large amount of people that came in. We thought it was the opposition, but it was the homeowner association that was supporting the developer's idea. That thing went unanimous because it was within the harmony. Everyone was happy. It was serving the public, and it benefited the city. So with that being said, work together, come up with a plan that you're all happy with the limits that you have, with what this is zoned for. Don't ask for things you know you're not zoned for. We can't make it a park because the guy wants to make money on this property. It's commercial property, so things like that, you know, but work with them. And hopefully we'll see you soon, and it should go by easy. Well, you'd have to come up there if you have a question.
Okay, I'll take one more.
Hi, my name is Richard Figure. I live at 704 Saukar Meadow Court. I would like to know about this licensing agreement, if our HOA could possibly get a copy of it to show that it's been in effect since then, and how long it's, if it's in perpetuity or whatever we call it, forever. Is that available to us?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is we'll get you the license agreement. If you give us your contact information, we'll get that out to you. We're not going to let anybody develop on somebody else's property. That's not going to happen.
Well, we just want to verify the licensing agreement and what the right-of-way is.
We'll get you a copy of that.
All right, and you want the contact information? He's right there. The president of our HOA.
President of HOA.
Yeah.
Put you under the bus.
Yeah, okay. And I'm the last commissioner to speak on this.
We already had it though, right?
I have to agree with Mr. Green. Oh, one more.
I'm Ron Kelly, president of Ashton Lakes. I can assure you that we will have a better presentation than we had tonight. We had no idea what was going on, what was going there. So we essentially came up here in the blind. What I would like to know is, our adversaries are sitting here, but they don't want to give us any information yet. We're not definitely opposed to something going in there. It just has to be the right stuff. What I mean by that is we would definitely be opposed to, say, a marijuana shop going in there, not necessarily a daycare center. And one happens to be opening up right now.
Yeah, right.
But our main, we have two concerns. One, what is going to go there, which when we find out, we will be well prepared. I mean, there's 257,000 square feet of space there. Not all of that's for retail, because you have to have roads and access and to go behind buildings. But that's essentially the size, almost the size of, say, a Home Depot, which is about 200,000 square feet. So that's how much room is in there. So you can put a lot of little stores and shops in there. But our main concern is coming out, we were surprised to find out that there's driveways on each side of us that have been signed off by the PATUS, and that could come into our community. And as we said, there's an awful lot of our kids that go down there, ride bikes, ride skateboards, and whatever it is that they're doing, going through. So if we're going to fight, we will fight that. We definitely don't want that. That's just not right to come across our sidewalks. And so what I would like, if we could all possibly, you certainly can, I can give you my, you'd like my email?
Oh, yeah, later.
Give it to
Later?
the clerk. Yeah.
To the clerk. It's all good then. All right. But what we would need is some time parameters, how this is going down, because we understood what this was tonight, but we all understand, we were also led to believe, perhaps in error, that this was going down in front of the city council in August. Is that true or false?
Yes.
Yes or no?
It's true.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah.
So obviously we need some information so we can prepare for that.
But it's just for the rezoning.
Yeah.
It's just for the rezoning?
Same thing that we're doing here.
Okay.
Yep,
Same thing
same
you're
thing
doing
we're
here.
doing here.
And that you can't vote on. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. And I'll be the last commissioner to speak. I have to agree with Mr. Green. The community commercial is some of the strongest protective language in our land development code in terms of the setbacks, and that is where we're going with this. That's what's being asked for tonight, and I think it's a good thing rather than keep it with a PCD, which some critics have described as let's make a deal and build something. And I think with a set rules that are very protective, both for the residents behind it, for buffers and screening and use limitations of the use, I think that's the best thing that we can do for the residents of Ashton Lakes this evening. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. We were on the same path. Go for it.
Make a motion to approve case number 1A-6000003 And I don't think there were any.
Nope, I'll
Bad
second it,
recommendations.
since we're,
Going once, going twice. Call the roll.
Lance Green.
Yes.
John Jugo.
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett.
Yes.
Bo Bothman.
Yes.
Mike Emmanuel.
Yes.
Thomas Jordan.
Yes.
Dan Wood.
Yes. All right, turn the page. Case number 18-250000.
Oh, now you're all gonna leave on us, aren't you?
Fun's just beginning. We're looking at a medical marijuana sponsorship.
I better talk to him.
And thank everybody for coming tonight.
Good.
Thank you for coming out. I really appreciate seeing people participate.
We promise no dispensaries.
You might want to have them ask their conversation
I'll be
outside
happy
there,
to
Chairman.
see you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
Newt, could you have them move their conversation outside?
We want to go home and eat
They're
too.
moving about as fast as they
Can you
can.
guys
Arlene.
please move your conversation outdoors?
Arlene?
Thank you.
Outside.
Thank you guys for coming.
Okay.
Wow.
Hard to
Alone again.
Gee,
Like,
we'll be able to hear crickets in here now.
you need to move up so we feel like we have an audience.
No, she sits back there, says she can only half hear and half
Yes.
listen.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll read it again. Case number 18-25000005. Land Development Code Amendment, Chapter 3, 5, 6, 13, 16, and 17. Amendments to the Land Development Code that are part of the ongoing maintenance effort to update the LDC to make it more efficient and consistent.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz, planner. As you just heard, this is an ongoing maintenance effort. We've been slowly trying to chip away at updating the land development code over this past several years. You guys have seen those amendments come before you. This amendment is affecting several chapters. It's primarily including clarifications to procedures, minor changes that are either just simple cleanup items to the development review process, or cleanup items to address problems we've encountered in implementing the land development code. Some of those include addressing abandoned development applications, the submittal requirements for as-built drawings, clarifying the regulations for installation of new subdivision signs by the developer, plat monumentation, signature requirements for template documents that we have just to make it consistent and clear, providing consistency to the shade tree requirements for replacement shade trees, home occupation regulations, addressing temporary storage containers, which weren't really clearly defined in the code, and just the individual disclosure notices for the PCA zoning district. So the staff report went into quite a bit of detail on each of the amendments, so I'm here to just answer any questions you might have.
Fascinating reading.
I'm sure it was.
I'd like to go
I
through
read it
this
when I couldn't sleep.
paragraph by paragraph if we could.
I was
Yeah,
expecting.
we're playing.
No, I think everything's fine. I read through every stitch of it. This was quite the packet this month.
Yeah.
And, but no, it looks like it's cleaning everything up.
135 pages.
From a builder's side, I can see some of the things that are much better. Tom?
Temporary storage.
Yes.
So that's pods.
Yes, generally.
Generally. So define generally. That's
Yeah, I mean, that's the common example. I mean, there might be another company out there besides the
That
official
is a
pod
brand,
company,
yeah.
but
Red box.
Well, so now I'm thinking about they have the what is it, Lowe's? Some of the other folks sell the big. What do you call them?
They're kind of like containers.
Yeah.
Tractor.
Yeah.
well, it's not for solid waste type things, but it's, generally when you're moving,
Yeah.
type of a situation, which our code wasn't very clear on.
Yeah.
And code enforcement hasn't had that real transparent, clear, and in the residents too will call and try to ask for, how long can I keep this,
Right.
on my driveway, and so
How long
it's a
can
little
I
bit
be able to keep
unclear.
living in
So
that pod?
we're just trying to
That's
tighten
it.
everything up, make the
Define storage.
regulations,
Yeah.
transparent and clear for everybody on both
Okay.
sides.
So what?
Thanks.
So would you come up? I mean, because we've had one on Riverside for over a year.
Yeah, so what it would
Sitting
be
in its
is
driveway.
you know, 30-day maximum for the calendar year. If you're obviously using it in conjunction with a building improvement, say you're doing a renovation and you're using that, you know, it can stay, it could stay longer as long as you have an active building permit, and then it would have to be removed 7 days after your final inspection.
Well, this is because this is from the storm damage, and you know he had to gut.
Yeah.
You know, he's
So in that
living in the
case-
house and he's gutting it. I mean, is
So
there an
he's got
exception
an
to that?
active permit.
Yeah, so if he's got active, if they've got active
I don't
permits.
see it on the garage, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be the thing is, you know, the only way to have longer time frames is if it's part of some kind of renovation that you have active permits for, and then after 7 days after that final inspection, it would have to go.
But he could have torn the house down and rebuilt it twice as big in less time.
Well, and that's the thing. We don't really have clear regulations right now, so we're trying
now you
to
do.
Now
deal
you
with
do.
those kind of situations.
All right.
Isn't there like a 3-day limit on them now for people that are moving in or out?
It's not really clear in the code. We're trying to provide clear rules now. So.
Would this also cover, I mean, I know you're saying pods, would it also cover the regular Mondex containers, the shipping containers, the metal, heavy-duty ones that they actually set on wheels and drive around as semi-trucks?
That'd be the same.
Yeah, I mean, if it
Yeah,
meets,
absolutely. Yeah.
if it meets the requirements as far as like being set back 5 feet from the property line and being on a hard surface like their driveway, I mean, if it meets those requirements and it fits, you know, yeah.
So they would still, I mean, it's still gonna put
It's a temporary
situation.
situation,
It's
yeah.
gonna put a time limit
Oh,
on
yes,
on
yes,
those. It's
that's the
not-
part that we're really trying to clarify, yeah.
And I'll continue to go that way after me, but the other thing, is there anything in here or in the works that would, these tarp, pop-up tarps and, car covers that they're making, it's like
Like a carport?
yeah, they're but they're
legal
tarps.
already.
Yeah, I mean, we have
People are-
regulations for
People are setting
carports.
those things up in their driveways and parking in front of them.
We have regulations for carports, we have setback requirements for carports, so if you're aware of one that you feel is not meeting the setback requirements, you
It's
feel,
not
you know,
even a full carport, what you're
Yeah,
talking
it's not
about.
a carport, they're temporary.
It's almost like a tent for your
Yeah.
car.
It's like a tent, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
illegal though. I mean, one of my neighbors had one for his boat, and
Yeah.
he got told they took.
But
it
we'll
down
definitely
today.
take a look at, we're planning on bringing some more cleanup items in the next few months coming forward, so we'll take a note of that and see if there's anything we can do to make that a little bit stronger or clearer.
Like Quonset huts do, they
Yeah.
put those Quonsets in the driveway. You've seen those.
Yeah, they're definitely a temporary structure. They're not meant to be permanent.
Okay, I made a note of that.
No. By the time I got through reading all the letters, I kind of zoned out when I got to that part.
You're not supposed to
I
say
never
that out
listened.
loud.
Start fading a little bit, did you know?
I was gonna say it was great when I was having trouble sleeping to read it, but no, I'm just kidding. I have no questions. It was pretty self-explanatory. It was good. Everything's good.
Don?
I noticed you said in the beginning of this, it says green friendly, but I don't really see it. Is it pertaining to green friendly construction, or is it just vegetation
No,
that pertains to
no,
green
that was
friendly?
just, the first paragraph was just listing some of the cleanup items that we've made over the past
Oh,
several
okay.
years. Several years ago, we did a green building ordinance.
Okay.
And so that was just one of the amendments that we did in the
Okay.
past.
Over-
That was
over
just listing
rain
just a
barrels
variety
and-
of things that we've done over the years to
Yeah.
update the code.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
All right. No, that would be all I have.
Okay.
Is there any public comment on the adjustments to the land development code?
I was gonna say, is there any public? But then they walked in, so.
You bring your checkbook?
Bring some coffee.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. We're at the point to take a vote here on this. Is there any more comments on case number 182500005? Nope. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve case number 18-25000005. Bo will second that.
I'll second it.
Both seconds. All right, please call the roll.
Lance Green.
Yes.
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett.
Yes.
Will Bozeman.
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Minio.
Yes.
Thomas Jordan.
Yes.
And Ed White.
Yes. Commissioner comments. We'll start this end this time. John?
Well, there's one pertaining that was brought to my attention from a homeowners association on a non-topic meeting, and that had to do with their concerns on a abandoned assisted living facilities on the cul-de-sac of Old Hammock Road. I guess it is a concern. They said that that seems to be a hangout for juveniles or kids, and it's abandoned. And has there been any code violations in the past with that? I don't know if you know
Is it for
offhand or what. I don't even know the history of that. I heard it's abandoned or is foreclosed.
It's been abandoned. We had some code enforcement action on it in the past, which was correct in terms of, I think, installing the fence in. I would have to get with code enforcement and PD on basically looking at it in the future then.
Is it owned by a corporation or a bank or?
I'm not aware who has the ownership of it.
All right, I didn't know where the zone infractions were being focused to. Was it a bank that had to upkeep the lawn mow maintenance?
We'll speak with code enforcement on that.
Okay, it was curious. It was from the homeowner association. Thank you.
Maria?
I'm good.
When they were, are they finished with the remodel of the administrative facility, the old police department?
No, it's still currently ongoing.
Oh, they're not doing?
They're currently on doing the improvements to the old police station right now.
Okay, well, I saw them digging, I thought they were digging up the street out there where that route comes across. And I came across there tonight and that thing's still there.
Yeah, I believe that there are some improvements proposed in that area that Public Works will be doing as part of that project.
I thought they were removing that. It looked like they had a crew out there working on that.
I think there's some rerouting of communications lines to that big tower back there.
That's what they were doing.
They had originally gone kind of through the building as part of the, because it was a switchboard, I mean it was dispatch, it was operated out of that building. So doing some relocating, I think that's what's going on.
I was going to say they didn't do a very good job.
Okay.
Still there.
Okay. Mike?
Yes. What's going on down between Massey and the Dollar General? They got the little orange fence around where the parking lot ends. It's just south of the Dollar General, and they've got an orange, like...
Yeah, we have a site plan submitted on that one there. Basically, they want to convert that into an equipment rental facility, which is a permitted use in that zoning district.
Of course it is. Also,
it could be a tattoo parlor.
Well, we already got a new one there. So,
I know you do.
Which I'm not opposed to, but you know, the thing tonight with this cell tower, man. I mean, that's really something that like kind of fell through the cracks with us. I mean, I know you guys are probably trying to hopefully working on something so this doesn't happen again. I mean, because you know that's, in my opinion, is really just a horrible location for it. And there are areas where they could do. I mean, couldn't they put it on top of like the town and country suites and put it on their roof? It's close to 95. I mean, just different locations. I mean, would they be able to do something like that?
Yeah, just real quick, we gotta avoid a follow-on discussion on an agenda item that's closed. So, to the extent that you're just commenting generally on the code needing to potentially be updated, I think Tim and I have already had some conversations, and you'll probably see some stuff coming to you soon about maybe a moratorium to get some of that stuff updated.
Okay, that's cool. I'm good.
Tom?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm going to follow up on that. I mean, I'm not going to mention anything, but what I don't necessarily agree with in this situation, and I'll use Madeline Avenue and Williamson as an example, and so we have a decrepit building on that site. It's owned by a church, and yet we turn around and let them lease out for a cell tower. So we're allowing multiple uses on one property when it's already zoned for something. We zoned it to be a church, and we developed it to be a church, and then because it didn't make it to be a church, now we're going to lease out a piece of that property on it's a different zoning to me. You know what I mean? Multiple uses on one piece of property like this, I don't agree with, okay? And this other one is a perfect example of that. You got a church on that property. We have a church at Madeline Avenue, but yet we let them lease it. That's a different business. That's how I look at it. I look at businesses, and I look at classifications. I look at, this is zoned for this, and this is the business that's there. But yet we have a business of a church, and now we're saying, okay, you're going to do this business on that property as well. And I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with that.
Well, isn't a church a nonprofit
Exactly.
entity, and then it's producing a profit from the rental of the AT&T, which should be taxable?
I didn't want to get into all that one,
I mean,
because
it's
they're
just
already taken off the
a lot of
tax roll.
interesting
And you're
angles on
providing
this.
services, and yet now we're gonna let another use on a property that we've already have a use. So, that's just something for you to battle on with, Tim. But
I
other
also
than
want to
that,
point out too that, you know, basically they still have to submit a site plan on that, and it still has to comply with our requirements before it could be an approved use on there. Right now, it's just going through the first step. It still has, you know, multiple steps to go in terms of the review process still.
I understand.
Are there any other examples of like multiple use properties that we have, like we gave?
that doesn't matter, that don't count.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like
I
business
mean, you
side.
have basically, you know, shopping centers. Basically, you can have a convenience store at the one corner of a center
But
with,
it's
you
all
know, a
retail.
restaurant there.
But it's all retail. I mean, it's the same.
In terms of our code,
You
though,
gotta-
we differentiate the uses
You
in terms
can't
of.
define each one.
Yeah, it's like, just take one shopping center, you got a bank, that's financial services. You
It's
got a-
retail, it's business,
That's fine.
it's commercial.
Still,
It's commercial.
I see what you're saying, but
So
you,
I just,
you also
again-
have a auto garage in the parking lot too.
And again, when you have one use on a property such as that, designed, and it's developed for the parking and everything else and all the requirements, you develop it for that use, and then you add another use on the property.
Well, I thought churches were.
I'm just,
I thought they were like institutional.
I've already said
Well,
my
so
piece.
maybe it's something where when we approve a use for a property and we approve a building for a property, we need to make a special stipulation or whatever saying they can't lease it out for something like that. I mean, I don't know if that's something we can do, but.
That's just something to work on, I guess, you know.
It can't have any infractions if it tries to use a second designation for what the property's zoned for. Conflicts. So, did they ever square away that, off of Dunlawton, right off the bridge, the building, right off the bridge on the north side, it was a builder's.
Tamucci.
Did they ever square away?
coffee shop.
We saw them with a septic that got denied because they never got a
Yeah,
CO.
they finalized
What
that.
was the outcome with that?
They eventually provided that easement.
They did, okay.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Finalized and was addressed a couple years ago.
I was
We just never opened up the coffee shop.
Yeah, the coffee shop never opened up.
Tim, not so
Way
fast.
too long.
Sorry, guys.
Tim.
My turn. As you're working through the LDC, and I just wanted to bring it out publicly, and I know we had talked about it before, with the shopping center there at Spruce Creek Road in Nova, where the Kangaroo is, where I had a prospective tenant that couldn't locate their business there because it wasn't allowed under the, is it PCD?
That property is zoned PCD, which they have lists of specific uses. We have talked to that property owner a number of times, saying the best case for redevelopment of that property is to go from PCD to community commercial. We've essentially filled out the application form a couple of times. They have not provided that reply back to us with the application to move forward. Then.
And I know that when we discussed that you were aware there's other places in the city where something is covered by a very restrictive PCD. I think what we surmised was basically when they did that PCD, they took their tenant list and made those tenants the allowed uses, and now people that would want to open something that's not one of those allowed uses, but yet would be community commercial that would fit there, that would work good there, can't. And
They can go across the street. Can't they? Up in Dixie, you got plenty of places in there open to go in across the street.
Then you
That's
still have
PCD
same
too?
thing?
Yeah.
You still have the same PCD.
That's what they have a
This
problem
is-
with.
And
Which is what we
actually,
try to work with them on.
there's a couple of places where businesses have opened that didn't belong where they were. So you said at the time that you were going to look at something that would help streamline that process. Now I know you say you've already helped fill out their application, but would there
Can't
be?
sign it. You just can't sign it.
I just can't write the check for them.
Yeah, I mean I think that would be something that I would like to see come forward and help relieve them of the fees and the burden of doing it and get it done, because I know how
comes with a cost.
I know how
Cost.
commercial.
Grumble.
Here's the thing: how long has that one plaza been sitting there without tenants?
That's their
But that's on the
decision.
property
That's
owner,
not the
Nick.
city. Right. That's their
Yeah,
decision.
we've talked to them basically,
Why don't you write the
in terms
check?
of how it could be supported as commercial there. It's just they've got to do the last step of submitting the application and we can, you know, run with it from there.
Yeah, because he would have had a tenant.
Unfortunately, you can't make a property owner do something. You know,
I
Tim
can't
can't
make
make
a
the property
fence,
owner do
yeah.
something.
One more
We can make him
question.
wish he did.
What is going on with Jimmy? Isn't it Jimmy Hula's supposed to be building under the bridge by
Yeah,
DJ
we're
Stack?
continuing to review the plans for that. I think
Oh,
we got
okay.
the plans are still, building plans are still under review, so we hope to be
Okay.
moving forward on that
I
shortly.
just keep I keep thinking I'm gonna see action and haven't yet, so I was
You
just
should
curious.
shortly.
Awesome.
And speaking of which, that tiki hut that they put in at the deck, the other
DJ's.
one,
Looks awesome.
it was a great improvement.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Had a lot to do with the planning commission approving that variance.
You're welcome.
But-
But you guys should know that.
Great.
Well, there's another thing down there by Massey, the old Massey storage place, right where that property I was telling you about, that they're gonna put that rental on. You need, the fence has got like 13 different kind of fences gone on the north end of the property. I mean, I guess it was damaged during storms or whatever. But it's falling apart. You got some wood, some PVC.
Yeah, we spoke with code enforcement on that actually this afternoon then.
Okay.
And we're meeting on tomorrow basically to get that one.
So you were down there looking at the site and you saw that, right?
We drove down there a couple days ago and saw that, and then was talking to Debbie about that. And
Okay.
so we're calling to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, it don't look good. All right, cool.
He's slipping
Is
away.
there any, are there any staff
Tim,
comments?
run.
It's like I gotta go to dinner, man.
Nope. I take that there's
Pretty
no
much.
staff comments?
Public comment? Look at him.
Tim's like, I've made all the comments I'm gonna make.
Tiptoeing away. That's a hint.
Would any of the public, members of the media might like to make comments? No?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
They're
make a
gonna make
motion to
comments in
adjourn.
Second.
Second?
Third.
Go.
Thank you.
Bam.